The smell of garbage was unbearable. An odor that mingled with the dampness of the alley, where the sunlight seemed hesitant to enter. The distant echo of the city, with its hurried cars and indistinct voices, felt as far away as the life I never knew I could have. I was there, newly born, wrapped in a garbage bag, my tiny body trembling with cold and fear. Little did I know that, as the darkness around me tightened like a suffocating embrace, a figure moved away without looking back. Veronica, my stepmother, was the kind of woman who moved like a shadow. I didn't know her, but the look she cast at me before abandoning me was something I would never forget. It was an empty look, devoid of any compassion. She walked away as if she were leaving behind an object, not a life. In her hurried steps, I could sense the coldness of her heart. That moment was etched in me, even though I couldn't fully comprehend what it meant. The cry that erupted from me was involuntary. It was a scream of despair, a call for help in a world that seemed to have no space for a child like me. I wanted someone, anyone, to hear me. But the city, indifferent, continued its routine, ignoring the small life struggling to make itself heard among the refuse. Then, as if by a miracle, life began to change. The Johnson family was walking through the alley on their usual stroll. Sarah and Tom, along with their children, Jake and Emily, were people with big hearts. The sound of the children's laughter echoed, contrasting sharply with the darkness around me. When the cry reached their ears, they stopped. "Did you hear that?" Sarah asked, looking at Tom with concern. "It's a baby's cry," he replied, already moving closer to the trash, his expression shifting from worry to a mix of horror and compassion. "It can't be, not here," Sarah murmured, as Jake and Emily approached, curious and frightened. As they leaned over the garbage bag, their expressions changed. What was most human in Sarah's eyes lit up with an uncontrollable impulse. "Let's see what it is," she said, almost in a whisper, her hand reaching out to open the bag. When the light shone inside the bag, I was revealed. The first thing I saw was Sarah's face, a figure radiating warmth and love, so different from the mask of coldness Veronica had worn. "Oh my God!" Sarah exclaimed, covering her mouth in shock. "It's a baby! My God, who did this?" "We have to take her home," Tom said, his expression resolute. "We can't leave her here." With trembling but steady hands, Sarah picked me up. I was so small, so vulnerable, but in that moment, something changed. I felt the warmth of her body, the softness of her touch, and for the first time, hope began to sprout within me, like a flower opening in the darkness. "She's so beautiful," Emily whispered, her eyes shining with emotion. Jake, beside her, looked on with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Let's give her a name," Jake suggested, looking at me with a shy smile. "Lily. She looks like a lily." "Lily," Sarah repeated, as if the name was already a part of me. I didn't know it then, but in that moment, I was no longer an object thrown away, I was a girl, a real girl, with a name and a new family. "We need to take her to the hospital," Tom insisted. "She needs care." And so, with racing hearts and an inexplicable feeling of unity, the Johnson family took me home. The small car was filled with laughter and concern, while Sarah kept me warm in her embrace. Each movement made me feel safer, as if I were finally where I belonged. Upon arriving at the Johnsons' home, I was welcomed into a space that smelled of home-cooked meals and love. The walls were adorned with photos of happy moments, and the warmth of the fireplace made the living room feel even cozier. Sarah gently placed me in an improvised crib, and I remembered how the cold of the alley seemed so distant now. "We're here to take care of you, Lily," Sarah whispered, as if she knew I could hear her. "You'll never feel fear again." She turned to Tom, who stood by her side, with a look of commitment. "We'll do everything we can for her. She deserves a chance." "Yes," Tom agreed, with the determination of a father who already felt responsible for a life. Jake and Emily's eyes were fixed on me, filled with curiosity and love. "Can I hold her?" Emily asked, her voice soft and hopeful. "Of course," Sarah replied, as she handed little Lily into her sister's arms. I felt like a flower blooming under the sun. The affection and attention were everything I had always desired. "Hi, Lily," Emily said, with a radiant smile. "I'm your sister now. We're going to have so much fun." "And I'm Jake," he added, with a proud air. "I'll teach you how to play ball when you grow up." And so began my new life, wrapped in love and hope. Days passed, and I grew in a home that embraced me as a true daughter. Sarah and Tom worked hard every day to provide me with what I needed, and Jake and Emily made me laugh, bringing light into my life. But even with all the happiness surrounding me, I felt a shadow from the past. Sometimes, in moments of solitude, I remembered the dark alley, the coldness of Veronica. What would have happened if the Johnson family hadn't passed by? I was lucky to be there, but the pain of having been abandoned still echoed within me. "Are you okay, Lily?" Sarah asked one night, as I sat on her lap, gazing at the stars through the window. "You seem thoughtful." "Just thinking," I replied, hesitating. "About what happened before." Sarah hugged me tighter. "You don't need to worry about that. You are loved and safe now. We will never leave you alone again. Promise?" I asked, my voice low. "I promise," she said, looking into my eyes with such sincerity that made me feel like I could face anything. Life went on, and with each passing day, I felt stronger. The love I received from the Johnsons was a balm for my soul. It was the remedy I didn't know I needed. With every shared laugh, every moment of affection, I began to understand that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that life could be beautiful, even after such a dark beginning. And so, amid a home that embraced me, I dreamed. I dreamed of helping others, of making a difference in the world. I wanted no child to go through what I had experienced. And, who knows, maybe one day I would have the chance to confront the past and understand what really happened. But that was just a whisper in the back of my mind, a distant echo I wasn't ready to face yet. For now, I just wanted to savor every moment of the love surrounding me. The sun was shining brightly that morning, and the smell of fresh coffee wafted up the stairs of the Johnsons' house. I, Lily, was sitting at the table, watching my family with a smile on my face. Jake and Emily were arguing about who would win the next soccer game, while Sarah was preparing toast with jam. It was a typical scene, but with each passing day, I felt more grateful to have been welcomed by them. "Lily, did you remember about the presentation today?" Emily asked, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Of course. I'm almost ready," I replied, trying to hide the anxiety in my voice. The presentation was about overcoming challenges, a theme that resonated deeply with me. I wanted to share my story, not as a burden, but as a source of inspiration. "You're going to crush it, sis," Jake encouraged, giving me a light pat on the back. The day flew by, and soon I found myself in the classroom, my heart pounding. When it was my turn to present, I took a deep breath and stepped onto the makeshift stage. The room was packed, with my classmates' eyes fixed on me. "Hi, everyone," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "Today, I'm going to talk about overcoming challenges. We all face difficulties at some point in life. Some may seem insurmountable, but there is always a light at the end of the tunnel." As I spoke, I recalled my childhood, the hardships I faced, and the love I received from the Johnson family. I described how they rescued me from a life of suffering and how it motivated me to want to help others. Life can be tough, but we don't have to face adversity alone. We all have the ability to turn our experiences into strength, I concluded, feeling a wave of emotion wash over me. The room fell silent for a moment, and then, as a sign of support, applause began to echo. I smiled, feeling that my words had touched something within them. The teacher congratulated me on my presentation, and I returned to my seat feeling lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. After class, as I walked home with Jake and Emily, I couldn't stop thinking about how my story could make a difference. I was determined to become a social worker. I wanted to help other children who, like me, faced hardships. "You were amazing, Lily," Jake said, giving me a pat on the back. "Yeah, you spoke from the heart," Emily added, with a proud smile. "Thank you, both of you. It means a lot to me," I replied, beaming with joy. Their support was everything I needed. We arrived home, and the smell of home-cooked dinner filled the air. Sarah was in the kitchen, and Tom was sitting at the table, reading the newspaper. When I walked in, they looked up at me. "How did it go?" Tom asked, his gaze curious. "It was great." The class applauded. I exclaimed, unable to contain my excitement. "I knew you would shine," Sarah said, with a warm smile. The evening continued with laughter and stories about the day. However, something inside me couldn't completely relax. The feeling that my past was still a shadow looming over me wouldn't leave. It was as if a part of me was always searching for answers, trying to understand where I came from and why my stepmother, Veronica, had abandoned me. In the days that followed, life went on. School, homework, soccer games. But one stormy night, while watching TV with the family, something changed drastically. A news report caught my attention. The anchor began talking about a woman causing trouble in town. My heart raced as I recognized the name, Veronica. The police have received multiple reports of abusive and inhumane behavior from a woman known as Veronica. She is a feared figure in the community, and so far, no one has had the courage to confront her, the anchor said, with a serious expression. I froze, my eyes glued to the screen. The anchor's voice echoed in my mind, and a whirlwind of emotions engulfed me. I wanted to know more. Curiosity mingled with fear, and a persistent question formed in my mind: how could someone capable of such cruelty still be unpunished? "Lily, are you okay?" Emily asked, noticing I was in a trance. I just need a moment," I replied, trying to process what I had just heard. I slipped away to my room, sitting on the bed as tears streamed down my face. What I feared most about my past was coming to fruition. Veronica was out there, and I didn't know how to deal with it. What had she done to me and so many others in the town? The weight of the unknown crushed me. That night was long. I couldn't sleep, thinking about how I could confront this new reality. The idea of facing my stepmother felt daunting, yet necessary. I needed to understand why she did what she did. After all, I had found a new life filled with love and hope, but what about the other children? What about those still under her control? Days passed, and Veronica's image haunted me. I needed to know more. I wanted to gather the courage to understand the woman who abandoned me and, at the same time, made me so strong. With the Johnson support, I was sure I could face any challenge ahead. One morning, I decided it was time to act. I would talk to my parents about what I had seen on television. They had always supported me, and I knew I would need them by my side if I wanted to uncover the truth about Veronica. "Mom, Dad, can I talk to you?" I called, finding them in the living room. "Of course, dear. What's going on?" Sarah asked, her expression worried. "I saw a news report about Veronica. She's still in town, and it seems she's hurting a lot of people," I said, my voice trembling. Tom exchanged a concerned glance with Sarah. "Lily, you know you don't need to worry about her. You're safe here," Tom said, trying to reassure me. "I know, but I can't ignore what she's doing. I want to understand why she left me and why she hurts others. I need to know," I asserted, determination growing within me. "If you think this is what you need to do, we will be by your side," Sarah said, holding my hand. I thanked them, feeling a little stronger. I was ready to face whatever was to come. The morning breeze carried the smell of fresh coffee that Sarah was brewing in the kitchen. The aroma mingled with the sound of Jake and Emily laughing as they played in the living room. That house, once just a shelter, had become my home, a space where I felt loved and safe. However, an unsettling feeling lingered around me. The memory of Veronica, my stepmother, now filled with stories circulating through the town, began to consume me. "Hey, Lily! Want some cereal?" Jake shouted, his cheerful voice echoing through the halls. He always had a contagious energy, something I admired. I smiled, trying to push aside the growing worry within me. "Sure. A little cereal is always welcome," I replied, forcing an enthusiasm that wasn't entirely present. As I made my way to the table, the thought of Veronica hit me like a wave. I needed to know more. After breakfast, I found a moment alone in my room. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating the space and bringing a sense of calm. Still, the shadow of Veronica loomed over me. How was she still alive, and worse, how was she still causing pain to others? A surge of determination overtook me. I needed to investigate. I decided that the best place to start would be the local library. It would be my sanctuary of information. I grabbed my backpack, packed a notebook and a pen, and headed out. The walk to the library was familiar, and the sounds of the city accompanied me, the hum of cars, the laughter of children playing, and the murmur of conversations passing by. Upon arrival, I headed straight for the old newspapers section. My heart raced at the thought of what I might find. I flipped through yellowed pages, searching for any mention of Veronica. To my surprise, I found a series of articles describing her as a feared woman in the community, known for her cruel practices and disdain for others. With each word I read, a mixture of anger and sadness filled my chest. "Are you okay, Lily?" A familiar voice pulled me from my thoughts. It was Emily, her concerned gaze fixed on me. "You seem a bit distant." "I'm fine, just trying to understand some things about the past," I replied, attempting to mask the intensity of my search. "I found some things about a woman named Veronica." Emily's eyes widened. "That woman? The one who did horrible things? I've heard some stories about her. People are scared of her." "Yeah, from what I read, she's still hurting people around here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I feel like I need to do something." "What do you mean?" "I want to help the people she's harmed. I want to organize a food drive for those in need. If she's causing pain, maybe I can counteract it somehow." Emily smiled, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "That's an amazing idea, Lily. We can do this together. Our parents will love to help." Her enthusiasm filled me with hope. With her support, I decided that, in addition to collecting food, we could gather clothes and toys. It would be a way to show the community that, despite Veronica's cruelty, love and solidarity still existed. Back home, I shared the idea with Sarah and Tom. They listened attentively, and soon Sarah's face lit up. "That's wonderful, dear. We can use the garage to organize everything. I can talk to some friends at school to help spread the word," she said, her voice overflowing with support. "I can make posters," Jake exclaimed, excited. "And we can host a community event. Invite people to come and bring donations." The positive energy filling the room was contagious. I felt stronger and more determined than ever. With my family's help, the plan began to take shape. We headed to the backyard, brainstorming ideas and ways to organize everything. In the following days, the campaign consumed our lives. We created colorful posters, distributed flyers, and started spreading the word throughout the town. Every step we took reminded us that kindness still existed, even in the face of the darkness that Veronica represented. Finally, the day of the event arrived. The garage was decorated with balloons and banners that read, "Together we are stronger." I was nervous, but the anticipation of making a difference fueled my spirit. As people began to arrive, my heart raced. One by one, they brought food, clothes, and toys. The generosity was palpable. "Hi, Lily." A woman approached me with a gentle smile. "I brought some things to help. I'm Clara, the neighbor next door. I heard about your event and thought I should contribute." "Thank you, Clara. That means so much," I replied as she placed her donations on a table. While we chatted, I noticed Clara had a familiar expression. The way her eyes sparkled reminded me of something, but I couldn't quite place it. As she walked away, a wave of nostalgia washed over me. The past was closing in on me in a way I hadn't expected. The afternoon passed in laughter and donations. Each time someone arrived, I felt more connected to the community, as if an invisible bond was forming. It was heartwarming to see people unite for a greater cause. However, while I was organizing the donations, Clara approached me again. "Lily, can I talk to you for a moment?" "Of course, Clara. What's up?" I asked, feeling a twinge of anxiety. "I know your story. In fact, I knew your mother," she said, looking into my eyes. "She was an incredible woman, full of love. I've been worried about you since I learned what happened." My heart raced. "You knew my mother? What can you tell me about her?" Clara hesitated, then began sharing memories and stories I had never heard. She spoke of my mother's strength and kindness, how she always cared for others, even in tough times. "She talked about you, Lily. Always dreaming of the day she could reunite the family again. I know she loved you deeply," Clara revealed, her words heavy with emotion. As I listened, tears streamed down my face. The connection to my mother, so distant, was finally materializing before me. The pain and longing transformed into hope. The fight against Veronica wouldn't be mine alone, now I had a piece of the past supporting me. "Thank you, Clara. That means more than you can imagine," I murmured, holding her hand for a moment before stepping back. The event was far from over, but the information Clara had shared was powerful fuel. The afternoon continued to be alive, and as donations poured in, I knew that regardless of what the future held, I was ready to confront my story and make a difference. I had newfound determination and a new purpose. And in the depths, Veronica's shadow began to seem a little less threatening. I had love, support, and a truth that couldn't be erased. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, when I decided it was time to confront Veronica. My heart raced in my chest, a mix of anxiety and determination. I knew that this meeting was important, not just for me but for all the people she had hurt. The memory of her cruelty still burned in my mind, like a scar that never fully faded. After hearing the stories from the woman I met during the campaign, something within me ignited. I needed to do this. "Lily, are you sure you want to do this?" Sarah, my adoptive mother, asked with a worried expression. She had always been my safe harbor, and her gaze made me feel a little more at ease. "Yes, Mom. I need to. I can't let her go on hurting people. And I'm one of those people. It's time for me to break free from what she did," I replied, trying to convey a confidence I didn't entirely feel. Tom, my dad, stepped closer and placed his hand on my shoulder. "We're with you, sweetheart. Remember that you're not alone, we'll always be by your side." Their words of support created a bubble of courage around me. With one last look at the family that embraced me, I took a deep breath and headed toward the meeting I had arranged with Veronica. The chosen location was an old cafe, a place that had an air of nostalgia, but now felt heavy with a weight I couldn't ignore. As I entered, the bell above the door jingled, and the smell of fresh coffee and chocolate cake filled my nostrils, but the anxiety took over. Veronica was already there, seated at a corner table, her cold, calculating gaze fixed on me. She wore a dress that looked expensive, an attempt to maintain the appearance of someone respectable, but I knew who she really was. Upon seeing me, she raised an eyebrow, a look of disdain etched on her face. "Look who decided to show up. I expected you to be too busy trying to be a good girl," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I'm not here to discuss what you think I am, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm here to talk about what you did and how it affected my life. She let out a dry laugh, as if the idea of me confronting her was ridiculous. What do you think you'll achieve? Look at you, an orphan rescued by a middle-class family. Do you think that gives you any authority over me? A wave of anger surged through me, but I took a deep breath. What you did to me doesn't fade with time, Veronica. I am who I am today, and that includes everything you tried to take from me. The love and support of the Johnson family made me strong, and I won't let you deny that. She leaned forward, her gaze sharpening. You think they really care about you? You're just a project for them, a way for them to feel good about themselves. The truth is, you're a reminder of what they can't have. That's not true, I said, feeling my heart race. They love me and always have. Unlike you, who left me to die. You can't change what you did. Veronica's expression hardened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of doubt cross her face. Oh, but you don't know everything. You don't know how things really work. Nothing you've experienced is real. It's just a construct you made to feel better. I know very well what I lived through. And I know you continue to hurt people, just like you did to me. This needs to stop. I'm not here to debate your twisted view of life, but to make you understand that your actions have consequences. The firmness in my voice surprised me, but I was determined not to let her shake me. Veronica leaned back in her chair, a mix of irritation and skepticism on her face. And what are you going to do? Tell stories to your new family and friends? Do you really think that will change anything? Actually, I have a plan. I'm going to expose everything you've done. I'm no longer the vulnerable girl you left to die. I found my voice and I'm not afraid to use it. If you think you can intimidate people to get what you want, you're very mistaken. She let out a loud laugh, as if she found it amusing. You're so naive, Lily. Life isn't a fairy tale. People don't care about others, they care about themselves. You're going to get hurt, and I'll make sure of it. You can't hurt me anymore, Veronica. I've been through that. I'm strong now, and I'm not afraid of you. I will fight for the people you've harmed and for my own life, I asserted, my voice rising. Her gaze transformed into a mix of rage and contempt. You're just a child, and children don't know how to fight. You may think you're ready, but real life is much crueler than you imagine. And when you fall, I'll be here to watch. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm, but the tension was palpable. I won't fall. I have people who support me, who truly love me. You no longer have power over me. Your time of manipulation is over. She crossed her arms, a sardonic smile forming on her lips. We'll see, dear. You might think you have everything under control, but life has a funny way of bringing others down. And when that happens, I'll be here, watching from afar. I'm not going to let you control me again, I said, determination echoing in my voice throughout the silent cafe. I will fight for justice, and it starts now. Veronica abruptly stood up, her gaze now more threatening. You don't know who you're dealing with, Lily. I am more powerful than you can imagine. And I am stronger than you think, I replied without wavering. I'm leaving, but this isn't the end. I will make you face the consequences of your actions. I turned my back on her, and as I walked toward the exit, I felt a wave of adrenaline and relief. The confrontation had been difficult, but I had finally spoken the truth that needed to be said. As I stepped out of the cafe, the fresh air hit my face, and I realized the weight I had been carrying was beginning to dissipate. The road ahead might be complicated, but I was ready to face it. For every tear I had shed, there was a new strength within me. I was no longer the girl left to die, I was Lily, the fighter, and no one could stop me. The morning light filtered through the curtains of my small table as I began to organize the evidence I had collected against Veronica. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the room, and my adoptive mother, Sarah's, cheerful voice echoed from the kitchen. "Lily, remember we have that school meeting tonight?" She was always attentive, trying to balance my personal life with the battle I was waging against my former stepmother. "Yes, Mom. I'm almost ready. I just need to finish this first," I replied, focusing on the notes spread out across the table. The sheets were a patchwork of stories from people who, like me, had been affected by Veronica. Each testimony, each account, was a step closer to bringing justice to those who had suffered in silence. I remembered Mrs. Clara, one of the first to open up to me. She had worked as an assistant in a nursing home where Veronica used to visit. "She always left an aura of fear, you know," Clara said, her eyes filled with sorrow. "People feared her, Lily. She wasn't just a cruel woman, she was a monster in disguise." With each testimony I gathered, I felt the courage growing within me. What once seemed like a solitary fight was transforming into a support network. With every conversation, every new account, more people joined me, sharing their experiences and uniting against Veronica's tyranny. It was as if a wave of resilience was forming, and I was merely the catalyst for this movement. At that moment, Jake walked into the room with his characteristic smile. "Hey, sis. You look like a real detective. What are you up to?" He approached the table, glancing at the papers. "Wow, is all of this about Veronica?" "Yeah, Jake. I'm trying to gather everything I can to show the authorities. We can't let her continue to act with impunity," I replied, feeling determination swell in my chest. "You know we're all with you, right? Just say the word if you need anything," he said, giving me a supportive gesture. I knew I could count on him and my entire family. Their love and support were the driving force that propelled me forward. "Thanks, Jake. That means a lot to me," I murmured as he left the room, leaving me alone again with my thoughts. The struggle was just beginning, and I needed to be prepared for what lay ahead. Veronica, on the other hand, seemed to be starting to realize that her actions were finally being uncovered. Conversations in the community began to shift, and people started to gather, sharing stories of their experiences with her. I would see her from a distance sometimes, on her way to the market, and the look she cast on people was one of pure distrust. It was as if she sensed that her mask was beginning to crack. On a sunny afternoon, while walking through the park, I came across a group of women chatting in a corner. As I approached, I recognized some of them as those who had been wronged by Veronica. They were laughing, but what impressed me most was the strength radiating from them. One of them, Donna Rita, turned to me and said, "Lily, dear, we're with you. If you need us, we'll be here." This gave me a new boost. "Thank you, Donna Rita. I really appreciate it. Together, we can do something about this." The community was united, and I hoped that it would be enough to finally dismantle the empire of fear that Veronica had built over the years. I decided it was time to take the evidence I had gathered to the local authorities. I knew this was a crucial step, and I needed to be ready. With my family's help, I arranged a meeting with a town lawyer, Mr. Oliveira, who had always been respected for his ethics and integrity. He welcomed me into his office, and the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. "Lily, what have you brought for me?" he asked, looking at the papers I held in my hands. "I've gathered accounts from several people who have suffered at the hands of Veronica. They are willing to testify, but I need your assistance in figuring out how we can proceed," I said, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. Mr. Oliveira reviewed the documents, scanning the words written with such care and emotion. "This is serious, Lily. This is not just a personal case, it can impact many lives. I believe we can do this." I felt an immense relief wash over me. "Do you think we can arrange a meeting with the authorities? We need them to understand the gravity of the situation," I implored. "Let me make some calls." "We'll organize this," he replied with an encouraging smile. I left the office feeling that things were finally starting to move. In the days that followed, the tension mounted. People began to mobilize, and Veronica's story spread like wildfire. She, who had always maintained control, now seemed desperate, trying to extinguish the flames threatening to consume her reputation. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, I received a message from Mr. Oliveira. He had managed to schedule a meeting with the authorities for the following week. My heart raced. It was the opportunity one needed to expose everything I had discovered and seek justice not only for myself but for all those who, like me, had suffered in silence. "It's going to be all right, Lily," I whispered to myself as I looked out the window. The full moon illuminated the city, and I felt a wave of hope wash over me. The battle was far from over, but now I had the courage and support of a community ready to fight alongside me. That night, I slept with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: I was ready to confront Veronica head-on and fight for the justice we all deserved. The tension pulsed in the air as I prepared for what would be the final confrontation with Veronica. The sun was setting, casting long and unsettling shadows over the city I once considered home. The atmosphere was heavy, and I knew that what was about to happen would change not only my life but the lives of many others who had suffered under her tyranny. As I walked toward the town center, the conflicting feelings of anger, fear, and determination swirled inside me. "Are you ready for this, Lily?" Jake, my older brother, asked beside me. The concern in his eyes was palpable, but I needed to be strong. He had always been my protector, and his presence gave me courage. "Yes, I am." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm within me. "It's time to put a stop to this." The square was filled with people. Some of them I recognized by sight, while others were unfamiliar faces, but they all seemed to be there with a purpose: to support the truth. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder as we drew closer to the makeshift stage, where Veronica was preparing to defend herself. She stood there, with that arrogant look that always characterized her, now tinged with a shadow of desperation. I could see her hands shaking, but she tried to mask it behind an expression of disdain. "I can't believe you're doing this, Lily," Veronica shouted, her voice slicing through the air like a knife. "You're making up lies to promote yourself. This is betrayal." "Betrayal? You're talking about betrayal?" I challenged her, my heart pounding in my chest. "You betrayed me before I even had a chance in life. You left me to die in a pile of garbage." The crowd fell silent, and the impact of my words seemed to reverberate. Some people whispered among themselves, while others shot me looks of support. Adrenaline surged through my veins, and I realized I was surrounded by a network of support I had never imagined. These people were there for me, for the truth, and for justice. Veronica, sensing that the tide was turning against her, tried to defend herself. "These people don't know what they're saying. They don't know the truth. I'm a good person." The desperation was evident in her voice, but no one seemed willing to believe her. "A good person?" I laughed, a bitter laugh. "You mean a good person who leaves a child to die? Do you think you can fool us all with your lies?" My words resonated, and I saw some people nodding. The heat of the truth was on my side, and I couldn't let it slip away. The crowd began to stir, and I knew this was the decisive moment. I needed to expose everything Veronica truly was. "I'm not the only one you've harmed," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "Look around. How many people here have suffered at her hands? How many lives has she destroyed? I have proof, and I will show it." I raised a clenched fist toward the sky. Emotion overwhelmed me, but my determination was stronger. People began to applaud, and I felt a surge of courage. The voices of support echoed around me, and I knew I was not alone. "Let's hear what this girl has to say," a woman in the crowd shouted, and soon everyone began to rally in support of me. The clamor was deafening, and I felt lifted by that collective spirit. Veronica, realizing her defense was crumbling, tried to change tactics. "You don't know how I was raised. My life was full of pain. I had no choice. The coldness in her voice was a mask that was beginning to crack. That doesn't justify your actions. I shouted back, passion boiling inside me. You made choices, and now you have to face the consequences. The police were present, watching the scene closely. It was only a matter of time before they intervened. I felt adrenaline coursing through my veins, and the certainty that the truth would prevail enveloped me like a cloak. Veronica, realizing she couldn't escape, began to fidget. You don't understand, Lily. I did this for you. I didn't want you to be a burden. I was trying to protect myself. She was desperate, her words intertwining in an attempt at manipulation. Protect? From what? You just wanted to get rid of me. I wouldn't let her deceive me again. You're not a victim, Veronica. You're a villain, and everyone here knows that. The murmurs of the crowd turned into shouts of support. The atmosphere was changing, and the tension was palpable. I could feel victory just a step away. The presence of the police grew more evident, and I knew the time to act was nearing. Veronica, now with her desperation exposed, finally looked around. The desolate look on her face was a testament that the mask was about to fall. You don't know what I went through. You don't know what I did to survive, she screamed, but her words lost their strength. Surviving is not an excuse to hurt others. A clear voice stood out in the crowd, and I realized it was a woman who had been affected by Veronica's actions. You can't blame your history. You chose to be a bad person. The echo of the truth was resonating, and I knew there was no escape left. The police moved toward Veronica, and her desperation finally turned into panic. She looked at me, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her gaze. You can't do this to me, Lily. I'm your mother, she screamed, but her words no longer held power. The truth was clear, and justice was about to be served. As I saw the law enforcement agents approaching, my breath quickened. Tears began to stream down my face, not from sadness, but from relief. Finally, I was releasing the weight of a story I had carried for so long. Veronica was handcuffed, her incredulous expression was an image I would keep forever. As she was taken away, I turned to the Johnsons, who were in the front row of the crowd, smiling with tears in their eyes. Thank you for being here, I murmured, gratitude flooding my heart. I couldn't have done this without you. You were amazing, Lily, Sarah said, hugging me tightly. You're a warrior. We're so proud of you. With my stepmother finally facing the consequences of her actions, I felt a cycle closing. I could finally move on. Looking at the crowd, I realized my story didn't end here. I had a new mission, to help others who had gone through similar experiences. Let's change the story together, I said loudly, and the crowd erupted in applause. It was time to turn pain into strength, and with the help of my family and my community, I knew I could make a difference. And so, with tears of hope in my eyes, I embraced my future, ready to face any challenge that came my way.